Knock on the Coffin lid is a wonderfully crafted deck builder that has been in development for the past 4 years by a small 5-man team behind the studio Red Boon. It offers a pretty diverse deck building system combined with equipment, fantastic voice acting, plot, and a fine mixture of Darkest Dungeon meets Slay the Spire. Now, because they are such a small team and they did not anticipate such a massive reception from their old and new player base, there have been many persisting issues that they've been trying desperately to address, even going so far as to pull multiple all-nighters for multiple patches on day one. And while the game is fun to play, it will take some more work to iron out all of them. If you're like me and you've been playing this game since early access until its release in August of 2024, you would understand the problem with the game being updated so frequently and constantly having your old save files becoming corrupted as a result of these changes. Basically, after any update, you'll frequently be prompted to reload a new save, or if you're returning from early access, to entirely delete your old save file and restart from the very beginning after unlocking all of the events and progression, which for me was absolutely demoralizing. Hopefully this issue will be addressed soon, as it does kill the whole game as a result. That was one of the more frustrating parts because you can't really skip through a lot of the conversations, which while good at first becomes very tiresome after a while, eating up a lot of your time, making me hope that there will be a feature that allows you to simply skip it all or to move the dialogue along more faster when entering any of the encounters. You'd expect with a roguelike deck builder that you would plan your run based on what you obtain and what random encounters that you come across. However, this game takes a much more linear approach towards this, giving you specific paths to take, all of which need to be planned out once you've unlocked said dialogue somewhere on the map, forcing you to essentially die and restart over and over and over again in order to finally get everything that you need to finally be able to kill the final boss, who is completely overpowered if you do not know how to fight her properly. And if you fail your run, you must go down again the designated paths for the buffs that you require to finally take her on, hopefully obtaining a better deck and better equipment to finally be able to essentially get lucky enough, because you're not going down the ideal paths for shops and item drops, which is quite frustrating when you don't have enough upgrades, gear sets, or potions. You'll be playing through the story of 3 characters, first starting with Percival, the brother of King Sigismund. You were betrayed by said brother and killed along with everyone else in the castle after drinking wine that was poisoned due to him being corrupted by demon spawn. You were taken to the morgue to be buried, but you are awoken and revived by a stranger named Mortis, who offers you revenge and a release from your faith. You can escape this fate by simply killing your brother and bringing peace back to the realm once and for all, so he claims. It is a very engaging story the first time around, but if you ever have to go through it over again, it is pretty annoying because it eats up so much of your time. It's your typical deck builder. It works well and it's a lot of fun to play through, but once you get to the end game where you're just trying to find out ways to survive long enough to kill the final boss, it gets very boring and repetitive. Similar to how in other roguelikes, you just want to play the overpowered builds that do everything with ease more than as a struggle. One example would be earning the full elven gear, which essentially makes you immune to all physical damage except for status effects, which is extremely strong owing to how quickly it stacks up. Some runs you can actually receive the full set right away before leaving the first map, especially if you interacted with more of the elven encounters. The same could be stated for any of the other sets. I don't want to spoil the game's mechanic, but it's essentially a warning about what you're getting yourself into. I can't and I still don't enjoy this style of gameplay. So when you begin a new run, you know nothing. You must play and die a lot before unlocking a lot of the progression and attempting any of the paths that lie ahead of you, which are completely preset. It's not random, but items from shops and chests are, so it's a bad combination of linear and non-linear gameplay. Here's another example. You have a few options for killing the last boss. You must build a resistance to death, and the only way to do this is by discovering those spots. According to my understanding, you only need one of these, but you definitely will need at least 2 or 3 stacked because the final boss is once again very overpowered and unfair compared to everything else in this game. This will essentially force you to take a specific path in a specific set order, foregoing many of the interactions since the alternative paths are simply not worth taking. Unlocking the password for the golem for the blacksmith upgrade is one thing. Dying to a mushroom overdose after 15 minutes so you can alternatively fight the golem for the golem core is another, since the mushrooms will prevent you from taking damage for the first 3 hits. Everything else here works perfectly. The graphic style, the voice acting, the builds, the equipment, and as well as the soundtrack help keep you feel more involved throughout. Not to mention the extremely well-written story that helps you give meaning to all of this life and death rebirth. When you enter encounters, they are dynamic and you can see how much effort was poured into them to make the experience more engaging. It's like flipping through a choose-your-own-adventure book, but animated and full of life. This is honestly a love-hate relationship for me. It's not a bad game. It has a lot of good things going for it, but once you end up getting to the end game and you start to see the game for what it truly is, I just can't shake the feeling that this game still needs more quality of life changes before I can recommend it to most people. All I would really want is for a fix for corruption and potential corruption of runs and save files, as well as to make the dialogue go by a little bit faster. And if feasible, make it less linear so that it doesn't feel like a campaign in which you have to perform specific things in a specific order to win, or you have no other choice but to reset. Meaning, once you know what is needed to win and where everything is, you don't really have much diversity outside of it.